Okay, so welcome everyone to tonight's call. This is January 12th, and tonight this is basically our Q&A session, but I want to start by talking about two major obstacles and give you guys a little bit of feedback on some of the things that I've been seeing. Now, as a quick recap, we spent pretty much all of December working on our planning phase, okay? So all of that up until that point, and Chuck, maybe you could log in, log back out, and if someone wants to type that in chat for me, that'd be great. But basically, December was all about planning and getting ourselves ready for the new year. So now the concept we're working on is taking action, taking massive, massive action. And that's really the theme here. So just as a quick recap, right? These are things that you should have done by now. First, you needed to have done your target market exercise. Again, we don't want to be spread out. We don't want to be all over the place. You want to be hyper focused. You want to make sure the demand is there. You want to know what's selling, what buyers are buying at. That max allowable offer formula, it's a decent starting point. That is not going to get you deals. Depending on your market, you may need to go higher. Otherwise, you won't get contracts. If you're bidding too high, you might, if you need to go lower, right? So be at 70%, and you're offering too high, you're not going to get deals under contract. Here in Miami, I've been able to wholesale things at 85%. So that's how we know that there's demand. We know how much we need to pay, all that good stuff. We have our archetype. So you have to have your target market done. And guys, I'm just recapping this quickly. I'm not saying this. This is all in the materials. This is in Wholesale and Mike University. If you missed any of this, go back and watch the replays. It's going to be the last 4 replays, okay? Next, you should have created your reverse schedule. The idea is to have absolutely no white space on your calendar, because from there, not only we talked about all the benefits of the reverse scheduling system, right? How to properly execute your day to make sure that you have, exactly what you're going to be doing. You know what your metrics are, your deliverables, you're tracking everything. And in that system is built in your rewards, the actual habits, what you're doing daily. So that needs to be done. That is also on your action plan. You should be focused on one strategy right now. So many people, they see a lot of videos, they try everything, they're spreading themselves too thin. Your chosen strategy needs to be based on your criteria specifically. What works for other wholesalers, what works for me is not necessarily going to work for you. Sometimes you see some of these great, YouTubers, big guys doing tons of business, and you're trying to emulate some of the things. And I'm not saying these are wrong, but what I'm saying is it might be wrong for you at this time, simply because, maybe they have 30 VAs working for them in $100,000 budget, right? And then lastly, we talked about doing that goal setting workshop. That video is available on YouTube. So you guys should have done that to kind of plan your vision. So that's kind of where we are right now. So again, today's going to be largely Q&A, but here's where I'm coming from with this, okay? One of the first obstacles I had when I was starting a business is that I kind of knew what to do. I had studied, I've been to the boot camp, I just started my mentorship. And from there, the process, okay? A lot of you guys know this. Now, you do need to understand how wholesaling works, and that's why Wholesaling with Mike University exists. And again, that's A to Z. So you guys know that. If you haven't been through that yet, if you're brand new here, or if perhaps you need a refresher, well, yes, that's obviously crucial. You have to know how the business works, contracts, the entire process, etc. But once that happens, right, and you get to this point where you understand what you need to do, you understand how it works, but you're not getting results. And you kind of get to that place where it's like, well, why is that? Or the other thing that happens is, you try all these different things, but then nothing seems to be working. And it's kind of like you're on this treadmill. You're working very hard, but you're not seeing results. And that's because, man, every deal is different. Every situation is different. They present unique challenges that you can't really put into a YouTube video, right? Because they're so specific to your deal. Sometimes it's a strategy. Hey, I tried this strategy and it's not working. You might need a tweak, or just you're doing 95% of the stuff right, but it's that 5% that's really messing you up. Or again, some examples we use in the past, like seller said X. I didn't know what to say, right? I told you guys that story of I went on an appointment with a realtor, my second deal, and the guy's like, "Oh, what cap rate do you buy at?" And I had no idea what a cap rate was, right? So these are just some examples. So what you really need to do, the way to be successful, is again to ask questions, right? So I've used this analogy countless times. I'm probably going to say 1,000 more. The information alone is not enough. Okay, everyone knows how to lose weight. You get the diet plan online, you get the grocery list online. Everyone knows how to do it. All right. A lot of people are still unsuccessful. Like 70% of people are overweight. Why is that? So it comes down to this idea of implementation. And the way I want you guys implementing is that, you see something in Wholesale in Mike University, you hear something I say tonight, and you go out to the marketplace, you try it, right? You have to, in most cases, not always, but a lot of times you have to do it in enough volume so you build up kind of a data set, and then you get feedback. If it works, great. A lot of times it's not going to work. And then that's when you have to come back to me and say, Mike, I tried this, it didn't work. The seller asked me this question, I didn't know how to respond. Or the seller asked me this question and I said this. Was that the right thing to say? And so this, going into the new year, the thing that I really want to get to is this point where you guys are coming in, you're saying, hey, Mike, this is a contract I submitted. What do you think? Hey, Mike, these are, I made an offer. This is the feedback I got. What do you think? And we'll look at it together, right? We'll look at some of the comps. We'll look at the specifics of the property. We'll look at how I would analyze it, things like that. If you have discussions, these are the things that I want to talk about. Now, right now, that's not happening. Okay. This week was a bit of a disappointment on my, from my perspective. And I'm always going to shoot it straight with you guys, right? Because my job here is to get you results. There's a lot of positivity coaches, and I consider myself a very positive person. But at the same time, I've always said I'd much rather be the asshole that gives it to you straight than, the nice, encouraging guy where you don't see results. So this is a bit of a kind of a call out where you guys should be coming in with these types of questions every week. I think in our Facebook group this week, there were really only 2 questions that came to me. And they were good questions. And I hit that person back and gave some feedback, and it was helpful, and they're moving forward now. But until you guys bring that stuff to me, I'm not necessarily going to know what you're struggling with specifically. And essentially, you're going to really stretch out that process, man. Just elongate it. There's no need. I mean, obviously, there's a degree of trial and error, but you can cut that by so much. Okay, I've got 12 years experience in the game. My mentors, probably 22 plus years in the game. There's a lot of things that even if you think maybe you saw it on YouTube, you might not necessarily know, or I might at least have a different perspective that I can give you. And oftentimes the mentee and mentor relationship is such that the thing that you kind of think is right, a lot of times it's just not, or it's even counterintuitive, because if it was right and you did it, you'd have the results already, right? So that's kind of before we get to our Q&A, what I'm getting into today is I want to see these questions, right? We've had some really good sessions, but you guys got to bring more. And on that note, it's important as you're going to kind of document everything. So when you guys are doing cold calls, for example, I always recommend that you record them. You record them so you can go back and listen to them and see, oh man, that's where I fucked up. I know this. And then you can correct yourself, or you can send them to me in the Facebook group, put it, upload it to YouTube or Google Drive or Dropbox, and just drop the link. I'll go in and take a look at it and give you that type of feedback that you're looking for, that type of feedback that you need. Okay. And then with your questions, the thing that's going to help is to be as specific as possible, and also tell me kind of your experience, right? So I had 2 experiences this week. One of my one-on-one guys, and one question is hey, Mike, any cold calling tips, right? So obviously, I believe in kind of there's no dumb questions. So I'm not discouraging you from doing that. Ask any question you want, right? Totally, completely. But at the same time, the quality of your questions is going to determine, it's directly correlated with your results. Okay. I see the chat going. I'm going to look at it in a minute so I don't lose my train of thought, right? But the quality of your questions is going to directly impact and be correlated with your results. So when he said, and the reason for that is everyone's different. You guys have different life experience. You have different strengths, weaknesses, fears, etc. So he asked me about cold calling tips. I gave him all my tips, and also sent him a video and some stuff. But I told him, I said, listen, in addition to this, it would be helpful if you had some experience and you let me know, hey, I tried this call. What are you struggling with? Hey, I'm too nervous to pick up the phone. I got a little bit of anxiety going on. That's a mental issue. Or it could be, I don't know how to skip trades. I'm not sure if I'm doing this properly. Okay, that's a technical issue. Let's talk about that. We get on the phone. I don't know what to say. That's a scripting, a role play. It's that kind of issue, right? So the more that you can give to me, the better I can answer it for you. And then there's not always one answer. So I think Josh, you and I talked about this last time. It was okay, go try this. and see if it works. And if it works for you, I say, okay, this is how you supplement and amplify that strategy that I gave you. He said, Mike, that didn't work for me. It's okay, great. Try this. Go try that. You come back. And that's how that needs to work. Another question was like, as a student, he keeps sending me emails. Hey, Mike, what do you think about this property? Hey, is this a good deal? Is this a good deal? Is this a good deal? First couple of times, I look at it, give him my thoughts, send him the comps, do the analysis over and over and over. That's the pattern. And I'm happy to do that for any of you guys. But I'll do that for you kind of in the beginning. But the idea here is like, teach a man, fish for a man. Shit, now I'm messing this up. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Fish for a man, feed him for a day, teach him to fish, feed him for life, right? So I told him, one, selfishly, this is not a good use of my time. Like I'm doing other things. I got to be efficient here. But more importantly than that, when I'm doing the analysis and running everything for you, I'm not giving you value. I'm not teaching you how to evaluate. So if you're going to come to me, after doing this for some time, if you're new, it's totally fine. But after this has gone on for a while, right? After some time, it gets to this point where it's like, okay, man, if you want to know if it's a good deal, tell me how you're analyzing the deal. What makes you think this is a good deal? How are you going to justify it to your buyers, right? Some properties we've looked at, the comps are not very strong. So, and you'll notice when I advertise certain properties, I'll say, hey, or even talk to some of my buyers, say, hey, this is probably not going to work for you as a rehab. However, for my landlords out there, you can see the monthly rent is $2,000 a month. Here are some rentals that are going for $2,000. Here are some rental comps, and the property is available for $150,000. So by the 1% rule, which says, you don't pay more than 100 times rent, that's your max allowable offer, this would be a very good deal for you. So I need to know how you're analyzing. I told him, hey, next time you do that, send me the comps. Walk me through your process of how you're analyzing this deal and why you think it might be a good deal. And when you do that, that's when we get to the heart of it. And not only will I help you get through the deal and, kind of guide you through it as we go from there, but it's giving you a skill set, right, that you can use going forward. And then that's the thing that's really going to help you. Okay. So again, the first piece of this is that we got to see more questions. That's the big thing. If you're taking notes, that's the big takeaway, the big home. And dude, I've had people say to me, like, I had a student one time and he said he's working on some deal, and I think it's like a week went by, I hadn't heard from him. So I hit him up, like, dude, what you doing? What's going on with this deal? He's like, oh, I canceled it. So, well, why? And he told me it was an issue with like a permit issue with the title or something like that. And he canceled it. And it was a good deal. And I was like, dude, why didn't you just ask me? That would have been the easiest thing. We could have gotten that going, because he didn't know. And he's like, well, I didn't want to bother you. I said, dude, I'm accessible. And especially for you guys are paying me for this. So don't be scared to reach out, or, I'm very approachable. Hey, let me know. Hit me up. Give me the questions. And that makes this more engaging, better for me, better for you guys. It's awesome. And you get results. Okay. So questions. Now, the next thing, and this is kind of what we've been leading up to with a lot of the preparation work, especially the prep work that we kind of did in December, is you get to this place a lot of times you've studied, you've been through all of wholesaling with Mike University, you went through the core curriculum, you went through the action plan, and then you know what to do. And again, this was my experience, and if some of you guys might relate, some of you guys don't, but that's again why you have to tell me what specifically you're struggling with. But it got to a point where it's like, I know what to do. Why am I not doing it? Or at least, why am I not doing it consistently? And at that point, that's how I got into the study of, guys, as much as I've studied wholesaling and real estate and all that stuff, and contracts, negotiating, all that stuff, I've studied probably more than that, right? Psychology and habits and like secrets of successful people and performance, and what are these guys doing? What do their days look like? What do their routines look like? And for me, this was the key that opened up wholesaling and made me successful in the business. And so this is something I feel like is not talked about enough. Okay. Back to our weight loss example, people who just go to the gym when they feel like it and have the information, they don't see the results. People who have the habits, it's built into their lifestyle. It's a part of their identity. It is what they do, right? And so that's why I've been pushing you guys, again, the unspoken kind of, I guess, keys to success here that you don't really see on YouTube, right? And a lot of times when you're just coming in, you don't realize the importance of it. So you just kind of overlook it. And that's why you're not doing things. That's why you're not getting offers done. So I'm going to ask you guys, as I read Josh's question, if it's related, I'll answer it now. If not, I'll save it till the end. Um, and I'm asking you guys for full participation. How many offers did you make this week? Because that is the most important metric. I mean, the amount of leads you got is cool. The amount of phone calls you make is pretty good. You know, getting a little bit better. But at the end of the day, if you're not making offers, you're just watching YouTube, you're just watching my stuff, you're procrastinating, hey, I'll do this tomorrow. It's not gonna work, man. So how many offers you guys make? I mean, small, safe space, right? If it's zero, it's zero, but that's the feedback I'm looking for, right? If you made zero, then my next question is why? Okay, because I had to do this. Okay, well, why did that? And I just go every layer deeper on the why. Why did that happen? Why? Until we get to the root of the problem. And sometimes, you know, it's a mental problem. Most of them are. Sometimes it's a time management problem, discipline, like could be a whole bunch of things, right? Like having that feedback. So I'm gonna hope you guys put that in there and not be too shy. Let me see. If I get a contract signed with the seller. Okay. Good questions, not quite related. So I'm gonna save them to the end. All right. So I don't get too off track. So I know what I should do. Why am I not doing it? Okay. This comes down to, you know, pre-planning everything, having a good plan. My mom used to say, failure to plan is a plan to fail. Very, very true stuff. Okay. So wisdom from mom. Habits and routines. Guys, this is the one of the biggest things I can push on you. We've talked a lot. I've given you some recommended reading. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg and Atomic Habits, I want to say by James Clear. Go read those books or get them on Audible. Some books I'll tell you, hey man, you should get the physical version. I like to like make notes and highlight and dog ear and all that stuff. These are two books where that would be nice, but in the interest of quick implementation, they're perfectly fine to get on audiobook. Go to Audible. If you don't have an account, you can get the first book for free. Listen to those books. Every time you drive in a car, it should be no radio right now if you're not doing deals, okay? Self-development, self-improvement. It's always about how you're getting better, okay? But again, most of these things and deficiencies and reasons why it's not working, it's coming from the subconscious mind. We talked a lot about that. If you guys remember, in the very beginning of the core curriculum, there's a whole, I think it's like module number 2, right? How to succeed in the program. And I give you guys some of the graphics and the analogies. Like your brain is basically like a iceberg. 5% is conscious. That's your conscious mind telling you like, hey, I want to not work this 9 to 5 anymore. Hey, I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck, man. This shit sucks. I'm ready to do whatever it takes. You know how many times I see that in Facebook groups? I'll do whatever it takes, man. And then you don't do it because the other 95% that's controlling you is your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind, I won't go into detail because we've done that before and it's also in your curriculum. But really, that's what's stopping you. And a lot of times it might be fear, right? You still have that reptilian brain, and your reptilian brain might view making a cold call and getting rejected the same way your ancestors, you know, caveman times viewed getting killed by a wild animal. Okay, so what we want to do is build these habits into our, you know, identity, into who we are, into our daily routines to make sure that we get this done. So I'm going to give you guys a quick exercise and a homework assignment and kind of demonstrate to you a little bit about how this works and how this has helped me get to, you know, do what I need to do. At this point, guys, you should know, if you did your homework from the last couple weeks, what you are doing. We talked about doing the math and reverse engineering. Now, if you've not seen that, that's probably the most important call we've done probably in the last month or two. And that's the one that includes my cheat sheet of what it takes to get a deal. So for anyone who forgot, basically you create your reverse schedule, you find out where all your white space is. And then from there, you choose your strategy. There's exercises that's based on your budget, based on your time available. Then you're going to choose your strategy. Let's say, for example, it's cold calling. For most of you guys here, that's what you are working on, and maybe your on-market offers, okay? The cheat sheet will tell you how many calls or how many offers you need to make. From there, you just, in your action plan, the spreadsheet is there. You just type in the numbers and how much time you have available, and it will spit out exactly what you need to do every day, right? Whether it's the number of calls, number of offers, whatever it is. So now it gets to a point where, okay, now I just have to do that shit, man. So how do we do this? Let me go ahead and pull up my screen real quick. And let me slide this bad boy over to the side. And my chat disappeared. Okay, cool. If you guys can see my screen, just drop a 1 in the chat for me. That'd be fantastic. All right. So your subconscious brain, how this thing works, okay? It's all based on habits, based on routines. There's been a lot of studies in neuroscience. If you guys look up on YouTube, Dr. Bruce Lipton's a good resource for this. John Assaraf, also a good resource. They just study the brain. And this is not like how, I mean, obviously there's like statistically significant quizzes and things like that. But I mean, these are guys hooking up electrodes to people's brains, seeing what areas light up and how this thing works. Okay. So what happens is, and what they say, right, it's not just me, is that 95% of your daily activities, basically the same shit you did the day before. Obviously, they say it in a nicer way, but I mean, if you think about it, a lot of what you're doing is the same. And if you really take the time to document your day, right? Use a timer and see how much time you waste. You'll be surprised. It's probably going to be a lot. But what happens is we get into these loops, okay? These cycles of doing the same thing. A lot of it's subconscious. A lot of it's built into our kind of brain's protective mode, okay? So what happens is you start off, right? I'm going to do a quick little diagram here with a cue. Oh, here we go. It's telling your brain to do something, right? I'll give you some examples in a second. And what that does is it establishes a routine. Your routine gives you a reward. Okay, so what this looks like, and it's one of the reasons why so many people procrastinate, is this cue could be something like, I don't know, boredom. Okay. And what happens is, you get in front of your computer, you're ready to make some offers, make some calls, you have some boredom, or maybe you have some doubt. Okay. And your routine is going to be to alleviate that by maybe getting on your phone. Okay. And scrolling social media for 30 minutes, which really probably turns into like an hour. Anybody relate? Anybody can do this, right? And then your reward is you feel relief. Okay. You get this huge dopamine hit. And then that just keeps happening over and over. It's one of the biggest causes of procrastination in the business. Okay. So this habit loop, right, is created by this craving. And that's why social media can be so dangerous. If you guys have kids, be very careful. Okay. Literally, your brain is releasing chemicals, right? Chemicals that make it addictive. These platforms, guys, it's $1 billion companies, and they know what they're doing. They know how to keep you on there. And so you have to consciously restructure how your brain works and how you're thinking to make sure you're doing the things that you need to do. Okay. Now, this also, this vicious little cycle here, creates beliefs. And your belief system is going to keep doing the same thing over and over. So, you might make an offer or two, then you get a little bit bored, and then you get on social media, and then your belief system is, this wholesaling is hard, or it doesn't work, or it takes too much time, or whatever those excuses are, right? Beliefs can be positive, negative. A lot of times, in a lot of cases, these things turn into excuses. Okay, so wholesaling is hard. And then your subconscious mind, as a result, will prevent you from taking action. Another fear, if you guys saw the Alex Hormozy video I posted in our YouTube group, or not YouTube, our Facebook group today. One thing he mentioned, which is kind of related, but there is kind of this fear, and often the fear is subconscious, right? Where you're going to do all of this work. This is kind of a side note, but you're doing all this work and you're not sure if it's going to work. And even if you are have the faith and you believe, like if you haven't done your first deal yet, or even if you've done one or two, but it's not sustainable, you're not doing it every month, there's this subconscious belief and worry that, I'm wasting my time. What if I do this and I spend weeks and weeks and weeks investing all my time into this, and, money's draining out of my account and it doesn't work, right? And that now your brain is subconsciously thinking of the negatives. Hey, I'm about to be broke. I just spent my last $100 and $200 on Refax. What if it doesn't work? But what he says in that clip, and again, it's you guys should watch it. It's inspirational, but it's like a minute long or less. And he says, one, if you guys follow what I'm telling you, it's gonna work. Okay, we boil this down to, and the way I try and teach you guys is more like a science, right? It's a methodology. It's not. It works for some people. It doesn't work for others. You have to have a certain skill set or anything like that. Yes, there's a skill set you have to build, but anyone can build it. Okay, it's a process, and just like back to our gym analogy, right? It works every time. If you want to get in shape and you say, hey, this is the plan I'm going to do. I'm going to count my macros. I need to have this many carbs, this many protein, this much fats each day. And then I'm going to I'll go to the gym 3 to 5 days a week or whatever you plan. And then I'm going to do a 5x5, X amount of reps, X amount of this. There's no way your body doesn't respond. Okay. You're going to, let's say, lose weight. That's the goal. You're going to do it. Okay. It's going to happen. Wholesaling is the same way. So one, you don't need to worry about that. But again, that's a conscious belief. But the other point that he made that I really liked is like, it's not even about, the return on investment initially. It will be, but it's about the person that you become by doing that. When you're doing these things, that's when you become the type of person. That's when you're building up that skill set, type of person that's going to actually go ahead and accomplish those goals. Okay. So you will live and die by your habits. All right. This is why it's so important also that you guys are creating that reverse schedule, because with the reverse schedule, what that does is not only does it tell you what to do and when you should do it, but remember, not only do you have your responsibilities built in, but your rewards are built in. There's a specific reason I have you guys schedule your playtime. Again, these are not original ideas for me. Right? I'm not taking credit. Back to the power of full engagement. I mean, this is like a decades plus long study where they show that it's energy management far more effective, efficient, and correlated with your results than just time management, right? But when you have your reward system already built in, then you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm just kind of working forever. That basically allows you to take advances of Parkinson's law. It says, however much time you give yourself to do a task is how much time it's basically going to take. But then hey, I can go to work really, really hard for these next 2 hours because my reward is built in. And then when you get the reward, it reinforces this habit loop. So you're much more likely to take that action the next day. Now, the reward system ultimately is going to be the big fat paycheck or wire transfer when you're closing deals. However, just because of the way we're built, the way our brains work, sometimes it's hard to kind of bridge that gap because there is this time delay, right? There is this period, especially for you new guys, this kind of period of uncertainty, right? So with that, and having that period of uncertainty, you want to build in kind of these mini habit loops where you have these mini rewards that you can kind of see maybe like on a day-to-day basis. And that's how you start, and you creating these loops, and eventually you'll get to a point where, guys, this stuff just, it's like that. It's like clockwork. You don't even think about it, right? You brush your teeth, you come back, boom. You say, 20 minutes later, you got 30 offers done. You don't even know where the time went. That's the point you're going to get to. In the beginning, when you guys are making offers and doing your comping and all that stuff, like, it's going to take a while, right? It's just a part of the process. But eventually you'll get to this point. And so that's why you'll see certain things I recommend and structure in the program, things that we've talked about. They're all there. And in some cases, you're like, Mike, why are you talking about this shit, man? Like, how many people message me and say, like, hey, man, just what's the best list, right? Stop talking about all this other brain stuff and all this other shit and routines. And what's the best list? I'm like, dude, and Mike, why do you share information on YouTube, right? That's your competition. Like, dude, I'm not worried about any of that, okay? People, like I said, they can have all the information in the world. A lot of times it's the implementation, and that's where people get stuck. So a lot of these things, back to that quote, the Steve Jobs quote, I'm always telling you guys, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. You may not be able to see how this is important, what this shit has to do with wholesaling. But at the same time, it's all built in for a reason, because each loop takes you to the next step, which will ultimately make you successful. So example of kind of our mini loop, which is something that we do and you guys should be doing, is going to look something like this. All right, let me get rid of this. Boom. Okay, so let's say we're starting our day off. You have to establish a cue. What's the cue going to be? Okay, cue is going to be my alarm clock. Alarm clock goes off. Remember, we do not snooze. We jump out of bed. Why? Subconscious, deep-rooted beliefs. When you set an alarm clock the night before, what that says is a commitment. You're making a commitment to yourself. I am committing to waking up at this time in the morning, 6 a.m. Alarm clock goes off. You hit the snooze button. Your subconscious brain interprets that as I made a commitment to myself. It's okay to break it. Then what happens? When I have to make my cold calls, when I have to do my offers, I'm the type of person that makes commitments. And if I don't feel like it, I don't do it. Bullshit. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Okay. It's very rare where you find someone who is a complete slob. They have a messy house, a messy car, and they're extremely organized in their finances. Very rare, right? The way you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's also how your brain interprets it, right? And that becomes your norm. So instead, the alarm clock goes off. You're tired as hell. You jump out of bed anyway. Why? Because you're the type of person that does what you commit to doing, whether you feel like doing it or not. And then from there, we implement some of my inevitability hacks to make sure you do it. So an example would be, okay, I set my alarm. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to use Alexa because you can just say, Alexa, shut up. Okay. I'm going to put the alarm clock or your phone across the room. Okay. I'm going to make sure I go to bed at the right time and make sure I use no blue screens, no phone, no light within the last hour at least. They say 3 hours. I try and stick to like an hour before bed. I put the phone across. Okay. Then I have to get up and walk to turn it off. If I'm really tired, it's cold shower time, baby. You turn on the cold water, jumping in there, it's going to get you up, okay? You do what it has. Then your brain says, this guy just does what he has to do because he's committed to it. And that's how it works. That does not happen on a conscious level. So can you guys guess? The alarm clock goes off. What routine are we doing? We are doing our morning routine. I talk about this a lot. Talked about it in my last YouTube video. And again, it's not that you have to do this to be successful, right? I've seen people... even some of the big guys, Alex Hormozy, I just mentioned. And he's like, man, you don't have to take cold shower. Or maybe someone said that about one of his videos. And it's like, no, obviously you don't. That's not what makes you successful. Or the real popular one is, I think it's the general where he says, when you get up in the morning, first thing you got to do is make your bed, right? But people take it too literally. The point of that is to get yourself in an established flow, okay? So part of my morning routine, I wake up, slam the water, chug the whole thing. Boom. I needed to drink that. But voice. But then I have like a small victory. Okay, yes, I did the first thing I said I was going to do. Now what? And now I'm putting myself in a state that's setting my expectations. I'm doing my affirmations, I'm doing my visualization. I'm getting myself prepared and mentally prepared to take on the day. And I'm starting with a win, and I'm building up some momentum to make sure that the rest of my day goes well, because how you start your mornings impacts how your day goes. Your day impacts your week impacts your month, months impact your years, man. Listen, everything is momentum. It builds on everything else, okay? And remember, you're never stagnant, okay? You're either going to be building forward momentum and making progress every day. So if you're starting off right now, you haven't made an offer this week, just make one offer tomorrow, just one, okay? Then the next day, try and beat it, and beat it, and beat it. 2 the next day, 3 the next day. You'll see how this stuff builds on each other. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting until, everything is right and all that stuff, okay? Next. So we're into the morning routine. Now, if that starts off a little bit difficult, and in the beginning it will. It's going to feel uncomfortable. That's what happens when you start doing new shit, okay? So now this is, again, the ultimate reward, right, is going to be, our paycheck. But in order to keep certain of our, our mini loops going, then from here, you can give yourself a little reward. So some of you guys know I've talked about this, but I'm a bit of a gamer, right? I like playing my PlayStation. But I'm not the type of dude to sit down and play video games. One, because I'll probably it could easily become a habit. I'll get addicted, right? But also I got important shit to do. I got some money to make, right? But every now and again, I play my games. So I use that to incorporate it as a piece of my routine. Now, I'm not doing this now, but especially when I first started doing this morning routine habitually, this is what I use, right? So when I completed my morning routine in full, when I learned this, I would give myself 10 minutes of game time. All right. And that's something you can do. Now, you have to be disciplined with this, right? Set an alarm. Don't be caught up in playing games. And the type of games that I do play, I don't play like big role-playing games or games you can't save, right? I play like fighting games and things like that, just to give a quick break, right? Once you start doing this, you'll find that this stuff starts becoming a habit, becomes like clockwork, okay? Very, very effective. So what I want you guys to do, especially if you're struggling, remember you have to have those other things that we talked about done. So that's going to include, reverse schedule, picking your strategy, one thing, getting laser focused, right? All that stuff. But I want you guys to start establishing some routine. So I want you to, one, make sure you're doing that morning routine. Okay. It's going to help you build into the rest of your routines. Your cold calling, for those of you doing that, if you're making your offers and this stuff, again, you'll find out when you watch reverse scheduling video, if you need to go back and do that, where to put those, right? What slots they fit into. But to help you out, I want you guys to realize the cue. When you get distracted, when you get on social media, when you start bullshitting, okay? What happens? What precedes that? What comes right before that is always a cue. It could be something, that kind of physically happens, or it could be a feeling, could be tired. Some people, especially like, let's say after they eat like a cue, they eat lunch, then they feel tired. Okay, stop eating carbs in the day, maybe, right? Stop eating those simple carbs. Okay, that's why you crash. That's gonna be where you change the diet. Okay, if you find yourself getting bored, if you find yourself very nervous before cold calling, it's a feeling. And those are things you guys need to come and talk to me about. Again, not all these questions need to be about ARV and comping and specific properties. Yes, I want that from you. Okay, I need that from you guys. But a lot of it, and a lot of what I teach, is incorporating lifestyle into the business. Okay, understanding how to make this mesh and blend. And the reason we get into this business, so we don't have to have an extra job. It should be something that complements your life, not something that, there's different schools of thoughts on this, right? Some people separate their business and their personal. I don't. Okay. I wanted to get into this business so I could have a life. All right. So the first thing I want you to start thinking about is, and it's going to depend on where you are. Like if you're struggling from the very start, start small, start with that morning routine. If you're, cold calling, think about what happens. Think about the cue. Okay. So one, I want you to create at least one of these. And I'd appreciate if you guys, and it'll be helpful to other people in the program, post your results, what you did in the mastermind group. Okay. And this also how you guys, you should have your accountability partner, but you can have, a main primary accountability partner. That's who you sharing your action plan with. But you can have other accountability partners and hold each other accountable even within that group. So one, establish the cue. Okay. Think about the current routine. Right. And then from there, establish some rewards for yourself. Okay. That could, and this stuff will get bigger. The morning routine, that's a loop within an hour. Okay. Then a next level might be, okay, if I do X amount of calls this week, I get to go to the movies. I get to have a date night or something like that. But if I don't, and you'll know because you need to be using your tracking sheet that's in the action plan. Some of you guys, I'm checking on those things. Those of you that share with me, it's not there. Even if it's zero, offers or calls or inquiries or whatever, even if it's zero, it needs to be there because that's going to, one, let me know what you're doing. I can, once you kind of build up that data set, I can tell you where you're lacking in your business. I can tell you exactly, is it a volume problem? Is it a analysis problem? Is, what exactly the issue is, but also you hold yourself accountable. Okay. It's color coded. There's conditional formatting on that action plan. So when you go 30 days and you don't do a deal, a lot of times like, shit, I don't know why. But if you're filling that in daily, yeah, you know why. And that could be another routine you do. The cue, set an alarm, 9:30 p.m. Alarm goes off. The routine, I open up the action plan from, and that's in Wholesale Mike University under action plan for anyone new. You download it, right? And then the routine is you fill it in. Then your reward, that's when you establish something rewarding for yourself. Okay, something that makes you feel good, and make sure you do that every day. It's annoying at first, man. I got a little nephew. He's 2 years old. When he was 2, you had to struggle with this kid to get him to brush his teeth all the time, right? Now, I mean, you do it automatically, right? Maybe that's not the best example because we're talking about reward systems, but you guys kind of understand where I'm going with that, right? So I want you to establish some of these. Okay, if again, start with the morning routine. If you guys are not doing that, really, really helpful. Something that helped me out very much. But then think about the other things you need to be doing, whether it's making the offers, whether it's on market, whether it's doing cold calls, your follow up, your email. All this stuff needs to be structured. And again, I show you guys how to do that in our what it takes module, right? With the one with the cheat sheet, and also some of the planning modules. But guys, this is the time where it's not that the planning stops, right? You can always kind of make these little, you can do audits and kind of, you're going to change things from time to time, and things are going to change. And also once you get your first couple deals done, strategy changes because now you have some more money to play with. But I completely lost my train of thought. But the point here is that you're starting off like kind of small, and then you kind of build this stuff up, right? There's something else I wanted to say there, but I got a little lost. So make sure that you guys do this, okay? Let me know that you guys do this. And then the point I was making before I forgot was also, when you don't know why you didn't do a deal, and you have the tracking web sheet in front of you, and you see a whole bunch of red, which is what happens when you didn't hit the target for the day, you're gonna know why, and then it's gonna become very apparent. Oh, that's the reason why. And then you can see as it starts turning yellow and you start doing better, and it turns green, it's going to help you out quite a bit. All right, let me just check my notes here, see if I kind of left anything out. Remember, another thing that really strengthens and helps you with this is to have that strong why, to know why you're doing this. Watch last week's presentation where I talked about vision and goal setting and how to reverse engineer your success, exactly, doing exactly what it takes. And guys, it's going to help you out a lot more than you think. But I think I remember what I was saying. This idea of planning, right? You don't want to get in this habit where we talked about this before, but like starting over from scratch, right? Planning, okay, wait, I got to start over. And this week, right? You start with your initial plan, and then just kind of stick to it, right? You don't. My point is, you don't want to spend your time just shuffling papers all the time. Okay. An analogy we'll go back to our gym, right? A lot of people don't see success in a gym because they say, okay, I'm gonna do 5x5 workout. They try it for 1 week, they don't see results. Oh shit, I worked out for a week and I don't have a six-pack yet, even though I've been overweight for 10 years. So now I'm gonna try, hit cardio. Oh, that didn't work. Now I'm gonna try this German lifting program, or I could go on a diet. Hey, I'm gonna try Atkins. A week later, no, I'm gonna do keto. A week later, no, I'm gonna do stop switching the thing. Okay, you have to give it some time to kind of marinate. But that means the first plan you pick, right? Let's say you're gonna go keto diet. Okay, I've looked at the research. I've done the research. My goals, my body type. I'm gonna commit to keto. I'm gonna commit to doing this for 8 weeks, no matter what. I'm gonna temporarily disconnect myself from the result, and I'm gonna become process oriented. Right? I'm gonna put my cue, my routine, my rewards. I'm going to do this for 8 weeks. And at the end of 8 weeks, then I'll reevaluate. And if I need to switch, maybe I'll switch some stuff up then. But I need to get you guys to get in the habit of actually doing this. This is the habits of success, of successful wholesalers. Okay. And if you guys have questions, we can go through the whole day, what your day looks like. I mean, that stuff's all in the program. So for those you remember, I know a lot of you guys have, let's say, watch the core curriculum, but you don't have to necessarily watch. Once you watch it straight through, you don't necessarily have to go back and watch it straight through again. But as you guys know, right, I've told you before, about 80% of the things that you watch or listen to, you forget about 80% of it within like an hour. So it would behoove you to go back and rewatch some of those things. Get a refresher. A lot of the books I have, man, you can't read them one time. I reread books. I re-listen to books. It has to be kind of a consistent thing. Repetition is the key. So make sure that you guys go back. Like I said, in the program, this stuff is all laid out in there step by step. All right. So right now, I'm going to take your questions. And remember what we talked about in the beginning, guys. When you guys do this, there's a good chance you're going to struggle, or you're not. Is this a good routine? Is this going to work? I tried this. Talk to me about everything, every step of the way. Okay. Yes, we want to talk about specific properties, things like that. But I want to talk about, the struggles that you are having. A lot of them are going to be, mental struggles, or, it could be a skill set. It does not matter. Okay. Let me know. So right now, again, homework for tonight is going to be to come up with some routines, and I want you to share them with me so I can kind of critique them and help you out with them. Everyone responds to different things. My rewards are not going to be your rewards, but let's just start there. But on that note, I'm going to know what questions you guys have about this topic, and what questions do you have in general about wholesaling? Hey, are you pulling the right list? Do you know? Are you doing your comps properly? I didn't see any a couple, right? But besides the two main ones, I didn't see questions this week. So for me, that was the why we did this today, right? Because when I hear crickets, I basically have to assume one of two things. One, you're either crushing it, doing hella deals, which is great, but more likely you're not taking action. So this is to make sure that you are taking action. You're getting a habit that you're actually doing this stuff, okay? Not just procrastinating. And if your problem is procrastinating, like I said, this is just a kind of diagnosis, and it's just one solution. And for some of you guys, it's gonna work like magic. I mean, you're gonna see everyone's gonna see benefits, but some of you guys are gonna work, and that's gonna be kind of the thing that pushes you over the edge that makes you do this. Some of you guys are gonna help, but you're gonna fall off or struggle, and there are other things that I can give you. So let me know, okay? While you guys think about this and ask me other questions, again, free range, open everything. Let me take a look at Josh's question and see what see what we got going on. So if I get a contract signed with a seller when they ask me they 375K, I agree just to get it locked up and try to walk it back later by telling them I'm going to get one of my contractors team to check the property out to get a rough estimate of the property. Then I send it to your cash buyer website. How do I get the seller to give me pictures so I can send it to the buyers, or am I thinking this wrong? You're kind of on the right path. So a couple things with this, right? One, I'm assuming at this point you understand the seller motivation. Remember, that is the most important thing. There's a subtle difference. I get questions a lot, right? Mike, how do I make a seller take a low offer? You don't, okay? This is not a game of convincing people. We do not want to convince people to sell at low prices, because the spread that we need, the average person, unless they are motivated, they have to sell. This is not going to work, and you're not going to convince them. It doesn't make sense. However, if someone is in a situation, you have to understand these people exist, okay? They will always exist. Foreclosures happen every day. People have to move for jobs every day. Evictions happen every day. Divorces happen every day. People die every day. Like, you're never going to run out of deals, okay? Fires happen, natural disasters, people get whatever the reason, okay? They're always going to be there. So you have to understand, with this in mind, we've also done the exercise on target market, because if you're in Idaho, maybe there's one person around where that has to sell. Like, you don't want to be there, man. It's probably too difficult. It's not a good use of your time, right? And that's why virtual wholesaling is awesome. You want to be, first off, in a market where you know that there's demand, right? You don't want to do this one time for the year. You want to make sure you're doing deals every single month. So that's kind of the first piece. Knowing that these people exist and that they're better off selling to you at a discount, right? If I'm going into foreclosure and nothing happens, right? You do nothing, that person doesn't sell, well, that house, they get kicked out, they get a foreclosure in their credit report, they can't get loans ever again, right? Let's say in the other scenario, right, the house worth 100K, they paid off, I don't know, 50K, you go in, you offer them 60. Well, now the alternative is like, my life's completely screwed, or, yeah, it's not great, but I'm not in a great situation. So I take the 60K, 50 goes to the bank, property's paid off, problems are done. Nothing on a credit report, they can take 10 grand, go downsize, get a new job, get back on your feet a couple of months, okay? So that's what you have to understand, is that it's not a game of convincing. It's more a game of hide and seek. You understand these people already exist. You just got to find them. It's a volume game. Now, if they ask you, they want it like 375, and you agree to that just to get it locked up, that's going to depend on your ARV, okay? Remember, and this is especially true when you're going after listed properties with this strategy, simply because there tends to be, especially if you're in a high demand area, as you should be, there's going to be a little bit more competition, right? So in some cases, different for every property, not black and white, you do have to go a little bit high, okay, to have control of this, of the contract, of the property, right, of the sale. Now, in this scenario, if they're asking for 375 and the ARV is 380, then just don't do it at all. They're not motivated enough, and you're not going to be able to talk someone back from 375 down to, I don't know the math, but probably going to be like 250. That's not going to happen. So don't waste your time, your reputation, anything like that, okay? Now, let's say, I'll see if I have my calculator so I can make these numbers work. Let's say if this is worth 500. What's 500 times? We'll stick with the typical max allowable offer, right? So 500 times 0.7 is 350. Let's say a little bit lower, right? 450 times 0.7. Okay, so let's say the property ARV is 450, right? So 70% of that's gonna be 315, right? So let's just say that's even a little bit too low. But let's say your ideal price is like, I don't know, 345, right? That you would want to wholesale it at. In that case, And again, guys, don't quote me on this because it varies by property, by situation. But in that case, my point is you want to get in the ballpark. Okay, what's reasonable? What's reasonable enough of a discount for you to get to bring to buyers where it still looks like a deal, even if it's a little high? But what's reasonable that the seller is actually going to accept? And those two numbers need to be kind of in the same place, right? So once you're in the ballpark. Now, what happens is a lot of people will tell you, and you'll see this on Facebook and forums and shit like that. They're going to say, listen, if you offer too high, you're giving wholesalers a bad name. If you go back and ask for a price reduction, you're giving wholesalers a bad name. You should never do that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever. What happens is it kind of comes down to this narrative. And this is where it comes in. How do you get the sellers to give you pictures? So when they say they want 375, you don't just say, okay, yeah, get the contract. I'll send my boy. Okay. You have to, one, make it make sense in their mind, because one, that's how you get the contract. But also, you don't raise any red flags. And this is not to be deceptive or anything like that. What you're going to say to them is this, okay, you're going to be talking to them. So you're going to find out their motivation. And then you're going to say, before you're talking prices, you got to get to know about the property. Hey, tell me about the property. What's the condition? Does it need any repairs? Any big ticket items? Roof, central AC, electric, plumbing? Have you done any updates? How are the kitchens? How are the baths? Is this original? Blah, blah, blah. Then you're going to say, okay, can you send me some pictures? Because listen, with all the scammers and stuff like that, in this day and age, people are hypersensitive to scams, okay? So when you come in, they say 375, and you're like, yeah, sure, and you haven't asked questions and you haven't seen pictures, you're completely sight unseen, then that could be a red flag. Or if you do that and then you come back later and ask for the price reduction, again, kind of a red flag because you didn't really set the expectation properly. So you're going to ask them, hey, I don't know. That sound, give them a little bit, I don't know. Sounds a little high. Not sure if I can do that. I'll tell you what, can you send me some photos? I just need you to walk around, take a picture of every room. I just want to see what that looks like. If you do a video walkthrough for me, then they're going to do that. Boom. Now you have your marketing material. And then you're going to say, okay, well, based on everything that you told me, I would be comfortable based on my numbers, my comps, this, that, whatever. We can make this offer contract at 375, right? However, because I have not seen it, I will be sending someone to do a walkthrough just to validate everything you said was correct. It'd be really quick, whatever. And they're just going to make sure that number works for us. And as such, the inspection period is there, right? That's why you have your inspection period to confirm what they've been telling you, right? So now when you go back, when your buyer goes in, they're going to come back to you and they're going to give you the feedback. You say, Mike, I can't pay 375 because you didn't tell me you needed X, Y, Z. In some cases, some buyers will do their own inspection. They might bring a general contractor. They might have a report for you. You say, send me that. You take that information from the buyer, you regurgitate it to the seller. Say, listen, and essentially you have to break down what your contract's selling. You're saying, you're saying, I will purchase this property at 375 if it meets my criteria, and you will give me 7 days to send someone to look at it to confirm that it does meet my criteria. And if it does not, then we are both mutually agreeing that I'm going to step away from this contract, from this deal, because I'm an investor and I do have to make some money. And, on my end, I'm going to be doing repairs and I have to pay closing costs and holding costs and insurance. And I got to pay realtor commission when I sell it and all that other stuff, right? So we're mutually agreeing that if the number doesn't work for me, then I have the right to ask for a price reduction based on my findings, or I can kind of walk away. You guys are mutually agreeing to that. So when people tell me on Facebook forums and all this type of shit, like, oh, asking for a price reduction is so unprofessional, it doesn't make sense. Listen, and again, it's not like universal, but if a buyer is coming to me and they are validating those numbers and I show it to the seller, it's valid, right? I can prove that. I can prove that this is what I need to be at. So now I can say to them, hey, I know we said 375. I'm still interested in the property. It looks good. However, as you know, what we mutually agreed on, basically, my buyer, you don't say my buyer, but I sent my partner in, they took a look at it, and actually it's going to need this, 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 this. So based on that, we do want to move forward, but we would need to be at 340. Now, at that point, one, you're not just walking away and canceling the deal looking like an asshole. You're basically putting the ball in their court and say, listen, this is what works for me after I've done what we both mutually agreed on. And if you want it, we can still do the deal at 340. If you don't want to do it, then basically you're the one canceling the deal, not me. The other thing that happens is they're much more likely to give you that price reduction once you're in contract. The reason for that is, one, before, let's say if you went in with that offer at 340, they might have gotten a higher offer, right? And that person might have been a wholesaler who's going to cancel on them anyway. But the other thing is, it's psychology. Once we agree to do something, right, our brain's going to tell us we made the right decision. Once we make a decision to do something, so their brain's going to tell them, one, they made a right decision to sign a contract with you. Number two, whatever, remember, these are motivated sellers. So whatever problem they were dealing with, when you guys signed a contract, they felt like, oh, thank God, that is over with. It's done. I'm going to picture myself out of this shit situation. I'm going to picture myself, spending the money or, whatever it is, whatever their plans are. And then three, it's much harder to walk away from a sure thing, right? If they go to 340, it's like, okay, bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush. It's like, I have a sure thing with this guy, okay? I don't want to sell at 340, but I got to get out of the situation. It's for sure. If I cancel on Mike, I have to go back and, try and sell it myself. Or maybe something happens to the economy, or maybe I have to wait 6 months, or maybe I have to do repairs. I'm not sure. Maybe another person gives me an offer, then they stretch this thing out, then I wait another 7-day inspection period, and then they offer me 330. So it's much more likely that they're going to give you, the sellers are more likely to concede once you are already in contract. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Also does, okay. Let me know if that answers your question. I think I hit the points. We talked about the pricing. We talked about, yes, you send them my cash bar website and the seller getting the pictures. Yes. Okay. Also, does my script kind of change with seller if they tell me they have 6 months of payments and basically have their equity almost paid off? Do I mention it to them or ask them why they would want to sell their property if they could fix it up themselves? Basically, how do I probe better to find seller pain points? I mean, you don't really even have to think about it that deep, man. Just ask them. You don't have to say, hey, I've done plenty of deals, a lot of deals, free and clear. It doesn't matter. Like, all you're making sure is that if you're buying at 70%, they have at least that 30%. Otherwise, you get into, you still do these things, you get into short sale situations and things like that. But basically, that's all you're looking for, is to make sure that you can buy and own the property at that price, right? So that's the reason why you're asking them that question. But yes, you do want to still ask them what their motivation is, but you don't have to say, well, like, I see that you have 90% of this paid off, right? Why? You don't have to mention that, right? It doesn't matter. You need to know for your own purposes that they have enough money in the deal where they could basically, but they have the legal right to sell it to you, right? If they have paid off 10% and the bank owns 90% and you offer 70%, that 20%, the bank still owns, like, the property, right? So that's the reason that you need to know what the balance is. But you don't have to, you have to ask that, but you don't have to mention it to them to probe, because that's not probing for pain. You're saying, hey, man, like, you own 100% of this property, right? You don't have to say that, but you can still ask them, hey, so why you consider selling? What I like to do, instead of often just coming straight out with that, you can also say, okay, so when are you looking to sell by? Right? And they're going to tell you whatever date. Oh, okay, cool. So why are you looking to sell by that date? So sometimes it kind of masks how you're asking for motivation, because you're asking them why they want to sell. But especially if you're cold calling, and some of these guys, they'll just tell you, I don't want to sell. Or whatever. My point is, you're kind of masking that question. And so they tend to put up less walls when it flows with your conversation. But yeah, you can probe into that a bit. Cool. Yes, you're very late. What if they say, why not come look at it instead? Why ask them to send pictures? Okay, so this is one of the things that you should know from your Overcoming Objections workbook. And this is also about kind of mentally modeling very successful wholesalers. So I've given the example in the past, like, mentally, right? If you were like a millionaire real estate investor, you're like one of these Kiyosaki's, Cardones, Trumps, and you're making an offer on a house, and they're like, why don't you come over here and see it? Like, would it be worth your time to drive, an hour to go see this one property when you don't even know if it's going to be a deal? And the fact of the matter is, I tell you to kind of have that mindset just to justify it in your mind from somewhere outside of yourself. But the reality is, even at the current position where you are, it doesn't make sense to maybe waste 2 hours of your time. You take an hour drive there, spend gas money, sit down with these people, walk around their house for however long, uh, drive back, when you could jump on RealFacts and make 50 offers in the same amount of time. Now, remember, nothing I say is universal. There might be time and place where, yeah, you need to go in the car and go see the property, right? That obviously I've done that for, especially in the beginning of my career, and there's times where I will still do that, but it's very rare now. But my point here is that you should kind of be monitoring your time a little bit better. And the way that you explain that to them is you explain it as a process. So one, a lot of times when sellers give you objections, there's something underlying, right? They don't really care if you see the house. What are they saying? They're saying, I want to know that you are serious. Okay. That's what they want to know. So you just have to let them know. You're going to do that two ways. One, when you explain your process, you're explaining it in such a way that the subcontext is demonstrating that you know what you're doing, that you've done this before, that you have SOPs in place. A SOP, a standard operating procedure. What does that imply? That implies that I have a process because I know what I am doing and I have done this before. The other thing that you're going to do, and the way you're going to explain that, and you can say if you want, well, I'm not in the area, I'm not local, I'm traveling, whatever it is. But you can say, no, the way that we do this is we're actually going to send someone to the property. Now, when I send a general contractor, that's going to cost me $400. So I'm not going to send someone to go, just let them know you have someone else that does your inspection. However, it doesn't make sense, right, for you to spend $400 and send someone there if you guys are not even in the same ballpark. It doesn't make sense for you to spend money to have someone go and look at a property when you don't even have a contract saying that you're allowed to buy it. What if I spent, the money, sent someone over, and the next day to get a better offer, and then they're like, oh, well, fuck off, right? It doesn't help you to do that. So basically, you just have to explain that to your seller. And once you can explain it to them in a way they understand and show them that, yes, you're serious, but this is the way you guys work, explain your process a little bit, that's going to put them at ease. And also, you're letting them know, hey, I have a team, I'm sending someone, I'm sending a partner or something like that. And in those cases, they will. And remember, you're not dealing with your average Joe who's kind of wants to sell a property. These people need to be motivated. So oftentimes, if you say that and they're just like, no, you will meet people like that who are just very stubborn, maybe old school, whatever it is. But in a lot of those cases, again, not always, but in a lot of those cases, they're simply not motivated enough, and it would have been a waste of your time anyway. But if you go back into the materials and read through the Overcoming Objections ebook that's in your material, it's going to give you the exact words and the exact frame, not just the exact framework, but also the exact words. Bro, you could just read that shit to them and they'll understand, okay, why you do it that way. And that will kind of get you over that hump. All right. So what if they say why not? Okay, so we handle that. All right. Does that make sense? Let me know if you want me to kind of follow up on that, or if you have additional questions about that. Floor is open for everybody. Anyone have any additional questions about anything we talked about today? About any of the pre-planning stuff that should have all been done before the year started, right? Unless you guys join me in January, but I don't think anyone on here is that new. But maybe someone watching on the replay is. But yeah, last call for any questions, guys. Remember, do this exercise. Obviously, the exercise alone is not what's going to take you there, but it's going to help you build up that momentum to get you in that place where you are taking the correct steps, taking the correct actions to make sure that you're doing what you need to do. Everything that I'm teaching you guys, I don't give it to you all at once, right? So you don't get overwhelmed. It's like small steps, small steps, small steps. They all build on each other. Sometimes you don't see why, but there's a rhyme, there's a reason to why I do things the way I do, why I teach the way I do. But the most important thing is, again, your feedback, right? So go home, try this, let me know, come back with your questions, come back with your experiences. Next call, next Friday, I'm going to be asking, I'm going to be providing some accountability, man. So I'm going to ask you guys, how many offers did you make? That's going to be the number one question that you guys need to answer. I need 100% participation on this, man. I can't keep getting crickets. Okay. And from there, the next question is going to be why? Again, no judgment in this group, small, intimate group. be open with each other. And when you're open, you're going to also encourage other people to open up. And then you guys are going to be able to maybe buddy up, maybe accountability partner up, maybe JV partner up, whatever it is. So let's see. When you're talking to homeowners, if I make an offer that's still far away from my ARV, he or she agrees to it. Once I have a buyer, I can negotiate between the inspection period. Yes. I might be reading that a little bit wrong. Far away from your ARV. I mean, do you mean up or down, or you offering too low? I'm assuming what you're saying is, okay, maybe you mean it's far away from your max allowable offer, like of where you think you need to be. That's what I'm going to assume. And they agree to it. But yeah, that's kind of what we just talked about. Yeah. So once you have a buyer, yes, you can go back and negotiate during your inspection period. Yeah, I have a video on this, guys. On my YouTube, it's a little bit older, but kind of demonstrates in that video, like I show you how I went back. And basically in that video is cool because I show you guys the emails that I sent back and forth, showing you like what I went in as, and then how I renegotiated with the seller / agent. That was a listed property in that particular video. Like I said, a lot of times presentation is everything. There have been times where I've just told people, listen, I need like a 10K reduction, and I've gotten it. There have been times where I provided proof, didn't get it. But sometimes the way you package these things, and these are good questions, because then that's how we're going to mold our curriculum if you guys are at that point. Sometimes presentation is everything. So sometimes if you just write in an email and you say like, hey, needs a new roof, needs to do this and that, you can send it that way. But you know how much better of a conversion rate you get if you go to even Microsoft Word, you type it up, you add some pictures in there, you make it look pretty, you export it to a PDF in the front, you can put your name and this and that. You're not putting like general contractor number or anything like that. You're just saying that. And then you start it off, like if you're in REIFax, it'll do this for you. Like it'll start off with basic information that's available on a property appraiser site. So it'll just say address, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, this, that. All the information you already know, they already know. What it does, it makes it look more professional. Makes it look like you know what you're talking about. Then you put your findings in. You can even take your personal estimates. You can even make them a little bit higher if you need to. This kind of being conservative, I guess you'd call it, right? You send them a PDF, a lot of times it looks a lot better. And just by presentation alone, you can get those. There are other hacks and tricks I use. Like you can hire an actual general contractor. And, for some of you guys, if you're just getting started, you're budget conscious, not necessary for you, but you pay the $400, even if you don't need it, maybe even if you have a buyer on the hook, you send them there and you tell them. There's one company I work with in particular. They work specifically with investors, with wholesalers. And what they do is, remember, these guys, general contractor, right? This guy's got a license, so he's not going to lie, but he'll go in and make his repair estimates with the highest numbers. Meaning, if I send someone to go in, right, I'm going to say, and I'm asking him for this type of report. Instead of quoting me on like the shittiest windows, I say, hey, make sure you quote that impact windows, right? The most expensive ones. Make sure you quote the highest price, crown, thick molding, stuff like that. That's what he does. Then he comes back with a high. So like if you were a buyer, you wanted to know exactly what it would cost, you do this a little bit different, right? But as a wholesaler, you go in, you talk to him, you get the high estimate, and then you take that estimate and you send it to the seller. And then that's an independent third party. So you can say, independent third party, says it needs this much, right? And then they can't argue with that, right? So that's another way you can get a price reduction. Now, that's $400. Let's say you do that, if you're very budget conscious, why I don't recommend it. Let's say you do that 5 times and they don't give a shit. They're like, nope, no price reduction. Well, then you're out $2,000. But again, a lot of these things just work with volume. Let's say you do that 10 times, okay? So now you've spent $4,000. But of 10 of those properties, 9 of them say, no price reduction. But the 10th one says, okay, I'll give you a $10,000 price reduction. Well, now you spent $4,000, but you got an additional $10,000. So now you're up net $6,000. So these are like some of the strategies and hacks that we'll talk about as you guys are bringing the feedback in. There's a lot of different things that you can do. All ethical, all happens all the time. Like I said, this is just it's an estimate for a job that you would want to do, kind of top tier. So that's totally fine to do. and we'll approach those and take those on a case by cases. But yes, understand the narrative is very important. Of that inspection period, you do have the right to negotiate, renegotiate, and that's what you guys mutually agree to in your contract, right? So it's totally fine. Don't listen to kind of the naysayers. And at the same time, guys, like, I recommend you do this with a conscience. If I'm working with like a grandmother, I'm not gonna try and stick this lady for every penny I can get to. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that shit. That's just wrong. Kind of mean. I believe in karma. That should have come back on you. But yeah, when it makes sense, right? Especially when you have justification from buyers and things like that, like, feel free to go ahead and ask for that. And there's a way to do it, and you'll submit your addendum. I'll put that video out there, and I can give you guys more examples. We can do examples. I can show you guys stuff like that too. But that video is already up there if you wanted to go check it out. Okay, so on that note, I'm gonna do a last call. Any questions about what your responsibilities are, what you're gonna do this week? You guys, I mean, after our last call, you should know exactly what it looks like. Okay, you should know how many of X your chosen strategy. You should have done the math. You should have done the reverse engineered your success. So whatever your goal is, and we have the deadline, whatever that deadline is, you should know exactly what it takes to get there, right? Exactly how many, whether it's offers, calls, texts, whatever. Use the cheat sheet. If you don't, post it in the Facebook mastermind group. Okay. Okay, cool. Good to hear. All right. So if any questions, remember, you guys do not have to wait till next Friday. Post it in the Facebook or in our mastermind group. I will answer that for you. I saw a couple of names we had. I did kind of an open invite, invited some folks from my email list. So to you guys, welcome. I hope you got a sample of what our group coaching looks like. A lot more stuff to do. We meet here every week, and then you can ask questions throughout the week. Sometimes in the week, I'll jump on in our mastermind group and do lives. But listen, the main thing is anybody here can do this. Okay, this is about following a process and a system. There's no specialized skills that I came into this business with. And it's something everyone can do, because yes, you do build a skill set, and I teach you how to do that, but it's more, I break it down to numbers, right? You hit the numbers, it works. It works every time if you follow this stuff in advance. So thank you guys for being here. If you're interested in joining the group, you can reach out to me. Send me an email, wholesalinggmike.com. Basically, I have group mentorship, which is this program you guys are part of, or that we're doing today. And I also have my one-on-one mentorship, which I do have spots open in the program right now. I have different pricing plans and payment plans and things like that. The only thing I'm looking for is serious people. Come in here with commitment. Don't be shy about asking me questions. Like, I'm here to see you guys succeed, man. I care very deeply about each and every one of you guys. I want to see you guys be extremely successful, but I need your help, and I need your feedback with that. I need you to engage. But if you have that fire in your belly, or I guess for me, it wasn't so much fire, it's more like frustration from the corporate world. Really hated that stuff. But man, I'm here for you guys. And yes, I do direct coaching calls, one-on-one mentorship. You guys have my direct phone number, same phone number my family uses. We will have sessions that are completely dedicated to you. I have a calendar. You can book them for our long strategy sessions, but also you can just call me anytime, text me anytime. It's not uncommon for, especially for my new students, a lot of those guys I talk to on a daily basis. May not be like a long call. Sometimes it is, but sometimes just text messaging, right? So yeah, you can book a strategy session, book a free call. Those I update my schedule every week, and so they are limited. So if you want to grab one, make sure you do that, because it's first come, first serve. The website to do that is wholesalingwithmike.com/call. So on that note, thanks for being here, guys. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. Make sure that you stay busy, stay active. Remember, momentum is never stagnant. You either moving forward or moving backwards. Every day that you do not take action, it makes it easier to not take action the next day. And then you get into another one of these loops that we talked about today, right? So even if you can do only a little bit of something, only a little bit, do something every day. I'll leave you with my Eric Thomas rough quote. Every day you procrastinate, you delay, you're pushing your dreams back, your results back another 6 months potentially. So yeah, the website's wholesalinggmike.com/call. Put your information there. You'll have access to my schedule. Book a one-on-one call. And then however I can help you out, whatever programs right for you, whether it's group coaching or one-on-one session, get you in there and help you out. And either way, it's a value call. It's not a pressure sales or anything like that. If you just need some help and need to hit me up, just do that and we're good to go. All right. So thanks again for joining, guys. Great weekend. Stay productive, stay busy. And I'll see you guys, your comments in our mastermind group. And I'll see you again at the very least next Friday. Have a great night, everyone.